All right, so Ryan Pace and the Chicago Bears have made their definitive answer on Mitch Trubisky. Despite all the apologists, and I'm not a Mitch hater or anything, but despite all the apologists refusing to see the writing on the wall, and even with Pace lying about stuff, the message is clear now. They no longer believe in Mitch Trubisky. And we could put a stamp on that. So the Bears declined the 5th-year option for Trubisky. Obviously, they could still sign him and all that if things go a different way. They declined Kyle Fuller's option, and he was not great at all. And so he was able to turn that around. And so that could happen. But it's very clear. And it's funny, especially this offseason, more so than other off seasons, Bears fans that I talk with really seem to just be delusional. And they really seem to just look past, some of the tea leaves. You got people just clamoring over players and talking about how great they are. And I'm like, well, we could go back and forth. I mean, I can show you the film. If you can't see it, you can't see it. But we could definitely see certain things about how people value people. And whether that's the draft and where they get drafted, again, people like to confuse a player being valued with a player being really good. Where you get drafted doesn't make you a better player. You are where you are. And so there's that. But then in free agent contract money, that all speaks. And so when you see people get a 1-year contract, even, for example, Clinton Dix last year, just going nuts. Oh man, you're stupid, man. He's going to be way more than Amos. He's going to be way better. Our defense is going to be way better. And I'm like, bro, if he was that great, his team would have kept him. B, he would have got a longer contract. And C, would have got more money. I don't understand why is it people think people in the NFL give no money and small contracts to amazing players. So you see the same thing with Tayshaun Gibson right now. And then you got people, again, with Robert Quinn. Oh, it's a 5-year contract. Well, he's not going to play that whole contract. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. You shouldn't be giving a 5-year contract to somebody that you don't think is going to play 5 years. That makes no sense. And so, there's all of that. And it's not really to critique our moves. And it's just examples of what I see people saying when it is total opposite of what's reality. And so same thing here. So some people I've already seen it. It doesn't mean anything. Yes, it really does mean something. Did you see the Chiefs decline Pat Mahomes' 5th-year option? I don't believe so. Would any owner decline having an extra year of a great player? No. There's no reason at all for you to decline the option because you can restructure the contract. You can do an extension. Obviously, you can do all types of things. And so if you wanted to do that with a player, then there would be no sense of you declining the option before the season started. And so obviously it is a very large sign. So you got Pace in the offseason, the end of the year meeting, talking about how Mitch is the guy. Then they get Foles. Then you hear them on the call pretty much saying it's going to be a competition, but still trying to give Mitch the nod. Hey, Mitch is going to be the first one out there. He's our guy, but it's going to be an open competition. And it's like, okay. And now we got this where they are, first of all, just looking at them not putting money into the O-line. But I wouldn't even say that's a Mitch thing. But obviously they didn't care a whole bunch about the offense in that sense. But even, like I said, right now, they declined this option. And so that speaks volumes. That absolutely speaks volumes. So it's not just hey, open competition and whoever wins is the starter and the loser's the backup and we'll move like that. This is more of a Mitch, you don't win this, you're done here in Chicago. And I think it's interesting. Like I said, when they had Nick Foles, or when they first brought him in, I'm like, I think this kind of to me buys them a little time, but not much. I still don't believe they have much time. And if anything, I think this hooks Nagy to the sinking ship with pace even quicker, because if anything, you'd be happy to say, hey, Matt Nagy had a quarterback that he's familiar with, and they still lost, or the offense was still bad, and then they'll fire both of them. And that's kind of messed up. I don't know if Ryan Pace is thinking like that, but I'm sure they think they're going to get extra time with this. But either way, Trubisky, the Trubisky experiment is done, barring a miraculous all-pro comeback like Kyle Fuller did. And I don't see that happening. So that's just me personally. But we can finally definitively say where the Bears stand with Trubisky. And I don't think any team is just going to outright, be against their quarterback or be down on their quarterback. But I feel like, to me personally, this whole time, they've always been extra sensitive with Trubisky. And I've pointed out this offseason how that's happened sometimes as well, where they just go out of their way to talk for Trubisky. And that, to me, that raises the flag towards his, mental toughness. Now, I'm not making a distinction. Once again, I'm not saying what it is because I'm not there. I don't know him. That's just me reading the information I'm given. And so it could be that, it could be something else. But to me, it just like they always, to the end, the bitter end, just had to make sure Trubisky felt, supported. And so, but when it comes to money, you can't lie really. So I think, again, going up one pick from 3 to 2, drafting Trubisky at 2 says a lot how you feel about the player. It doesn't, I don't want to hear this Mahomes and Watson and being bamboozled by Lynch and all that. At the end of the day, it says a lot about how you feel about Mitch. And now declining his 5th-year option says a lot about how you feel about Mitch. And so it is what it is. So, and again, to the Trubisky apologists, I don't agree with you, but if you're like, hey, this means nothing, no, it does mean something, because if you believe Trubisky's great, it doesn't matter. The Bears have shown they don't believe it. And so Trubisky could possibly land somewhere else in the future. And I've always said this whole year, I think that's where he'll be best. But maybe he doesn't, and we never get to know how good he is. But either way, the Bears have made their decision, and they made it known publicly. And it's not really a surprise because, it's weird that it's now final, but dude, they put it off into the last moment. And all this, hey, we got this many days, we got this many weeks to make that decision. We're focused on the draft. There's a lot of people focused on the draft, and they were still making decisions about the options. And so, this whole thing about putting it off, if you got a top-tier quarterback, it's not a conversation. Pick that option up, ready to go. But unfortunately, that's not where Trubisky is. So anyway, I've talked mostly about the stuff we've done in the offseason. I've talked about the draft stuff. I may do some draft film, but like I said, I don't really think I might, but we'll see. I'm finished with school now, so got some free time, but I don't really think people care. There's a few of us that really like the film, and I might do it for you guys, but a lot of people just gloss over, and they don't care. They're going to hear what they want to hear. And so really in this off season, instead of going back and forth, it's probably better just sit and wait until we get some football action, if we get some football action. And then people can forget what they said and act like they were right all along. But anyway, so yeah, I really, it's interesting. I think in the total picture, and we still can do some moves, but in the total picture, looking at coming into this off season, what we did, what we could have did, I'm happy that Jamal Adams wasn't traded. I'm not happy we didn't get him, but at least they didn't move him. So that makes me feel like he was a little harder to move than what people were saying, because if he would end up getting moved for like a second and a fourth, or a third and a sixth or something like that, and I'm like, then I'd be like, wow, how come we didn't get him? So I'm happy that didn't happen. Obviously we went and got another quarterback. Nick Foles is solid, not really my choice. I'm still expecting them to restructure that contract. That's one of the biggest things to me. So we'll see what happens with the contract, or if they're going to pay him that number. So either way, they're making a decision on Trubisky, so that's interesting. The O-line bringing in the Fetty and not doing anything else is just one of the most head-scratching things that this offseason brought. I talked at length about Robert Quinn. People still arguing with me, which I don't understand. I think we'll have some interesting options on the front. I think for the most part it'll be the same. Obviously, Quinn will be the starter in some capacity, but they're making a big deal about the fronts and him standing up versus him putting his hand in the ground and all that. So I'll be curious to how they maneuver that. And I wonder if our pick out of Tulsa, I forgot his last name, but I wonder if he's part of those plans or not, but he is a 5th round pick. So it'll be interesting to see, but either way, I think we'll be seeing more pressure, at least coming from that opposite side, but less coverage, because Leonard played a lot of coverage. And so it will be interesting to see how we compensate for that. And then secondary is just, again, much like the O-line, it's like you have a clear issue here, and it's just like, we'll throw some duct tape on it. Not even duct tape. Well, the secondary, we threw some duct tape. In the O-line, we put some Band-Aids. So it's all bad. But the secondary, like, again, Tayshaun Gibson, I don't even know if he starts. He's a pure free safety. Man, Ha was too, but he could play a little bit in the downhill game. But Tayshaun's a pure free safety. And so they made a lot of noise about bringing back Bush, but he's on a 1-year contract too. For some reason, I thought he was on a longer contract. But he's on a 1-year contract as well. And very different, not great, not a great safety, but a different safety than Tayshaun. So it makes me scratch my head, because, again, what you did with Amos and Eddie Jackson is far different from what you did with Eddie Jackson and Clinton Dix. And so the difference between Bush coming in and Gibson coming in at the other safety spot is the difference between two very different styles of coverage. And you're taking away one of your guys in coverage without having that Leonard Floyd type character. Then I'm just really curious of what we're going to do. And so you got Tolver, and then you got Jalen Johnson, and possibly Artie Burns. I don't really know that they're going to have a 3-way corner battle. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know if they'll have a 3-way corner battle. But those are the names in the mix to see who will play opposite Kyle Fuller. And one thing that I thought was weird is that they kept mentioning the bump and run ability of Jalen Johnson. And I'm like, we don't bump and run, though. Like, we rarely bump and run. Like, we play a lot of quarters, and we play some cover 1, and we play a little bit of cover 2. That's really all we play. And so we never really jam off the line like that. That's not really our thing. We don't play press man either. And so I was really curious why they kept people kept bringing that up. And then I heard Ryan Pace even mention it. And so I don't know if we're moving to a different style that's more man coverage than what we used to. We do have the linebackers to do that, but that scares me with Kyle Fuller. That's not his jam. His jam is driving on the ball out of zone. And so I guess we'll see. It's a lot of questions to see. There were not the moves made that a lot of people expected. whether it was trading in the draft, whether it was getting O-line, getting some more bodies on O-line, period. I mean, we got Spriggs too. Let me throw that out there. We definitely expect to have as many freaking tight ends, to spend big money on an older tight end who I still think can ball, and then to spend money on Demetrius Harris, and then to draft Cole Kmet. So, it's just going to be real interesting. And I'm sure we have some type of back, but we didn't really put any money on a premium, not premium, but, on a back with a name. And so a lot of people are wondering, like, is Tariq Cohen going to have a reduced role? What we're going to do with him? And because a lot of people are tired of his running style. Finally, after I'm whatever. So people are starting to see it now, and they're wondering, okay, are we going to get somebody else to run with Dave Montgomery, or are we going to run him into the ground? And it looks like Dave Montgomery is going to be the guy. And so Tariq Cohen is probably going to return to the same gadget stuff he did before. And I really like him in the slot, actually. I like him as a slot receiver more than I do as a running back. But it looks like that's going to return. So after the offseason, it looks like it's going to be a lot more of the same. And I'm a little disappointed in that, but we'll see how it rolls out. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about Trubisky getting this option decline. What do you think about the offseason moves in general? What are you excited for? Were you worried about? Any of that good stuff. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Oh, no, stay up and bear down.